Hi guys, it's Alan coming to you from out in the shop. I want to show you a cool little technique here. If you have a model that you want to look very old and beat up and the paint is chipping off and there's rust and bare metal showing through, there's a really cool technique for doing that. All you have to do is sort of think in reverse. Think what's going to be underneath, what's going to show through the paint, and that's where we start. So the first thing I did with this model is just painted it with a gray primer, and then painted a bunch of sort of silver steel color along the bottoms and kind of up the corners, and then went with some rust on top of that. Because the rust and the bare steel and some of the primer itself is what I want to show through the chipped paint, and I want it to look like it's been sitting down on the ground for a long time, which is why it would get a lot of moisture down by the bottom and why it would start to rust and the paint would start to peel off. So now that I've got the bare metal color and the rust on there, the next thing you need to do, and this is the trick here, is get some normal table salt. And then you get a little bit of water and a brush. You go around the areas, just getting it wet, where you want this sort of effect to be taking place. While it's still wet, you want to just sprinkle on your table salt. And as you can see here, the table salt is sort of sticking to the areas that were wet. And what that is going to do is, in effect, is going to create a mask. When I paint over the rest of this with the, I think I'm going to use green, I just want a green trash can. When I paint over the rest of it green, it's not going to get past the salt, where the salt is stuck to the model. So I'll paint the green, I'll let it dry, and then I'll get a toothbrush or some kind of brush and then get rid of this salt, knock it all off, and that'll reveal what was underneath. And it should be a pretty cool effect. Now, on really small models, it may not look quite as good as it looks on bigger models. If you were doing like a 1/24th scale model car, you can get some really cool effects doing this. But I think it's going to look pretty cool on this as well. So I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes, and then I'm going to paint the green on there, and we'll come back and see what we got. Okay, well, we're back now, and the model is painted green, and you can clearly see now the salt that's still on there. I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes. I want it to be pretty well dried before I start messing around with it with the brush. I don't want to knock any of the green paint off the areas where I don't want it knocked off. I just want to knock the salt off. So I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to go see if I can find an old toothbrush or something. I'm sure I've got one around here somewhere. And then I'll be right back and we'll see what this looks like. Alright, well, I'm back. I've let this dry for a little while now, and I cannot find a toothbrush. I thought I had one laying around here somewhere. So I've got this old paintbrush here that I've cut the bristles really short so it's stiff. Might do the trick. Let's just see here. Let's check that out. Alright, that is pretty cool. Really gives the effect of paint that's been chipped off. Mostly around the bottom and then a few other spots. Now I'll do some more work to this thing. First of all, I've got to paint the top. The top needs to be black because the tops on these dumpsters are all molded black plastic. So I'll paint the top black. And then I'll do some more weathering and some more distressing and stuff on here to make this paint look a little older. But that's the general effect right there. If you want paint that's been chipped off and then the bare metal and the rust coming through, that's how you do it, using normal table salt. Hope that's been helpful to you guys, and it's a tip that you guys can use on your models. So there you go. That's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching.